The shuttle landed on the white stone platform with a soft hum. Kang Yuna looked through the window at the massive building in front of her. The Valoran Galactic Academy stretched across the horizon like a small city. Its towers reached toward the purple sky, and thousands of windows reflected the light of 3 distant suns. She took a deep breath and stood up from her seat. Yuna was 19 years old. She had short black hair, dark eyes, and a face that smiled easily. By human standards, she was average in every way. But she was not surrounded by humans anymore. The shuttle door opened, and she stepped outside. The air smelled strange, like flowers mixed with metal. Students of every shape and size walked across the platform. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had too many eyes, and some had none at all. They moved in groups, talking in languages that her translator chip turned into flat, emotionless words inside. Her head. Many of them stopped to look at her. Yuna kept her eyes forward and walked toward the main entrance. She knew they were watching. She could feel their stares like small fires on her skin. But she did not look back. She had trained herself not to react. On Earth, they had prepared her for this. They told her she would be alone. They told her she would be different. They told her to be patient. She was the first human to attend this academy through the new exchange program. Earth had only made contact with the Galactic Confederacy 12 years ago. In that short time, humans had earned a strange reputation. They came from a Class 12 planet, one of the most dangerous categories in the galactic database. The Confederacy called such places Deathworlds, but when other species looked at Yuna, they did not see danger. They saw a small, soft creature with no claws, no armor, and no venom. They saw someone who looked weak. That was fine with her. She preferred it that way. Inside the main hall, a tall figure stood waiting for her. He had the same dark hair and dark eyes. His name was Kang Dohan, and he was also human. He had transferred to the academy 1 year before her, and the administration had assigned him to be her guide. Dohan smiled when he saw her, but his eyes carried a warning. "Welcome to Valoran," he said in Korean, so no one else could understand. "Keep your head down. Smile a lot. Don't show them anything." Yuna nodded. "That bad?" "They don't know what we are," Dohan replied. "And honestly, it's better if they never find out." They walked together through the crowded halls. Students moved out of their way, not out of respect, but out of curiosity. Yuna heard whispers following her like shadows. "That's the Deathworlder. She doesn't look dangerous. Maybe the classification is wrong. Humans are new. They probably lied about their planet to seem more impressive." Yuna said nothing. She simply kept walking. Dahan showed her to her room, a small space with a bed, a desk, and a window that looked out over the academy gardens. It was simple, but it was enough. Yuna set her bag on the bed and looked around. "You'll have classes starting tomorrow," Dohan said. "Combat training, galactic history, diplomacy, and interspecies communication. The teachers are fair. The students are not. I expected that," Yuna said. "There's a guy named Rin," Dohan continued, his voice dropping lower. "Kathrani. His family is powerful, and he thinks he owns this place. He's been looking for a new target since his last one transferred out. You might be next." Yuna turned to face him. "What do you want me to do?" "Nothing," Dohan said firmly. "Ignore him. Let him talk. Let him push. Just don't react. If you react, everything changes. For all of us." Yuna understood. She was not just a student here. She was a representative of her entire species. Everything she did would reflect on Earth. If she lost control, even once, it could damage the relationship between humans and the Confederacy for generations. "I'll be careful," she promised. Dawn studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "Good. I'll check on you tomorrow." After he left, Yuna sat on her bed and looked out the window. The gardens below were full of alien plants with colors she had never seen before. Students sat on benches, laughing and talking. They looked happy. They looked normal. But she knew that she would never be normal here. She would always be the outsider, the strange one, the Deathworlder. She thought about home, about the mountains of Korea, the busy streets of Seoul, the sound of rain on her grandmother's roof. She thought about her mother's voice on the day she left. Be strong, Yuna, but more importantly, be kind. Show them who we really are. Yuna closed her eyes and made a silent promise. She would be patient. She would be gentle. She would prove that humans were not monsters. But deep inside, in a place she rarely visited, she also knew the truth. Humans were survivors. They had climbed to the top of the food chain on a planet that tried to kill them every single day. They had hunted predators, survived ice ages, and built civilizations on the bones of creatures that once terrorized them. Kindness was a choice. And choices could change. The next few weeks passed slowly. Yuna attended her classes and completed her assignments. She scored well in academics, especially in history and strategy. But in the social world of the academy, she remained invisible. No one sat with her at meals. No one invited her to study groups. When she walked through the halls, students either ignored her or whispered about her. She heard the same words over and over. Weak, soft, fragile, mistake. She let them talk. Rin watched her from a distance. He was tall and covered in dark green scales. His eyes were yellow, and his smile was sharp. He had friends everywhere. Students who followed him because they feared him or wanted his power. He had noticed Yuna on her first day, and he had been waiting ever since. Waiting for the right moment. Waiting for the perfect audience. Yuna felt his eyes on her sometimes, but she never looked back. She went to class. She ate alone. She trained in the combat rooms late at night. When no one was watching, she was patient. But patience, like all things, has a limit. And that limit was coming soon. 3 weeks had passed since Yuna arrived at the academy. She had learned the layout of every building, memorized her schedule, and completed every assignment on time. Her professors said she was one of the best students in her classes. But none of that mattered to the other students. To them, she was still the quiet human who sat alone and never spoke, unless someone spoke to her first. Yuna did not mind the silence. She had grown up as an only child in a small town outside Seoul. She knew how to be alone. She knew how to fill the empty hours with books, with training, with her own thoughts. Loneliness was not her enemy. It was an old friend, but Rin saw her solitude as weakness. He had been watching her for weeks, studying her patterns, learning her habits. He saw how she avoided conflict. He saw how she never raised her voice. He saw how she let insults pass without response. To him, she was the perfect target. Rin's social standing had been falling lately. His usual methods of intimidation were growing old. His followers were getting bored. He needed something new, something dramatic, something that would remind everyone why they should fear him. And then he looked at Yuna, sitting alone in the corner of the dining hall, eating her food in silence. Perfect. The Grand Hall Assembly happened once a month. It was a formal event where all students gathered to hear announcements from the academy leadership. Hundreds of students filled the massive room, standing in groups based on their species, their year, their social rank. The air buzzed with conversation. Yuna stood near the back, close to the wall. She preferred to stay out of sight during these events. Dahan was somewhere in the crowd, but she had not seen him yet. She folded her hands in front of her and waited for the assembly to begin. That was when Rin made his move. He walked through the crowd like a king moving through his kingdom. Students stepped aside to let him pass. His followers trailed behind him, grinning with anticipation. They knew something was about to happen. They could feel it. Rin stopped directly in front of Yuna. The conversations around them began to fade. Students turned to watch. Within seconds, a circle of silence had formed around them, spreading outward like ripples in water. Yuna looked up at Rin. He was much taller than her, and his green scales shimmered under the lights. His yellow eyes stared down at her with cold amusement. "Deathworlder," he said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I've been watching you." Yuna did not move. "I know. You walk around this academy like you belong here," Rin continued. "But we both know the truth. You're nothing. Your species is nothing. A mistake of evolution from a garbage planet." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Some students laughed nervously. Others watched in uncomfortable silence. Yuna kept her face calm. "Is there something you want from me?" Rin smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who had cornered its prey. "I want you to kneel," he said. "Right here. Right now. In front of everyone. Show them what humans really are. Weak, pathetic, worthless." The hall went completely quiet. Every eye was on Yuna. She could feel her heart beating faster, but she kept her breathing steady. She thought about Dahan's words. "Don't react. Let him talk. Let him push." "No," she said simply. Rin's smile faded. He had expected her to obey. He had expected her to break. Instead, she stood there looking at him with those calm, dark eyes, as if he were nothing more than a mild inconvenience. Anger flashed across his face. "No?" he repeated. "You dare say no to me?" "I'm here to learn," Yuna replied, her voice steady. "Not to play games with you. Please, leave me alone." She turned to walk away. Rin's clawed hand shot out and grabbed her shoulder. His grip was strong, strong enough to leave bruises, strong enough to crack the bones of most species in the room. "You don't walk away from me," he growled. Yuna stopped. She did not turn around. "Please remove your hand." The crowd held its breath. Rin laughed. It was a harsh, ugly sound. "Or what? What will you do, little human? Cry? Run? Beg for mercy?" His followers laughed with him. The sound echoed through the silent hall. Yuna turned her head slightly. Her voice was soft, almost gentle. "Almost gentle. I'm asking politely. Please, let go." Rin's eyes narrowed. This was not how it was supposed to go. She was supposed to be afraid. She was supposed to submit. Instead, she stood there like a stone, unmoved by his threats, unmoved by his strength. He needed to break her. He needed to show everyone that he was still in control. So he struck her. His open palm connected with the side of her face with tremendous force. The sound of the impact rang through the hall like a thunderclap. Yuna's head snapped to the side, and her body stumbled. Gasps filled the room. Someone screamed. Rin stood tall, his hands still raised, his face twisted with satisfaction. "That's what happens when you disrespect me," he announced to the crowd. "Let this be a lesson to all of you. No one is above my authority, not even a Deathworlder." He waited for Yuna to fall. He waited for her to collapse, to cry, to crawl away in shame. But she did not fall. She did not cry. Instead, she slowly turned her head back to face him. A thin line of blood ran from her split lip down her chin. Her dark eyes locked onto his with an intensity that made his scales prickle with sudden, unexpected fear. The entire grand hall fell silent. Not the silence of anticipation. Not the silence of amusement. The silence of realization. Because Kang Yuna was still standing. And for the first time since he arrived at the academy, Rin felt something he had never felt before. He felt afraid. Nobody moved. The grand hall, which moments ago had been filled with whispers and laughter, was now completely still. Hundreds of students stood frozen, their eyes fixed on the small human girl with blood on her face. Rin's hand was still raised from the strike. His confident expression began to crack. He had hit her with enough force to shatter bones. He had seen warriors of other species fall from weaker blows. But this girl, this tiny creature from a primitive planet, was still standing. Not only standing. She was looking at him. Her eyes were different now. Something had changed behind them. It was subtle, almost invisible, but Rin could feel it. The air around her seemed to grow heavier, like the pressure before a storm. Yuna raised her hand and touched her lip. She looked at the blood on her fingers, studied it for a moment, then wiped it on the side of her uniform. "You hit me," she said. Her voice was calm, almost curious. Rin did not respond. His throat felt tight at that exact moment. Every personal device in the room received the same alert. The Academy's safety AI, which monitored all students at all times, had detected something unusual. The message appeared on screens, wristbands, and neural implants throughout the hall. Warning: human stress hormones detected. Adrenaline surge in progress. All non-Deathworld species advised to maintain distance. The students nearest to Yuna took a step back. Then another. Then another. Within seconds, a wide empty circle had formed around her and Rin. Nobody wanted to be close to whatever was about to happen. Across the hall, Dohan pushed through the crowd. He had seen the alert. He knew what it meant. When he finally reached the edge of the circle and saw Yuna's face, he closed his eyes and let out a long, tired sigh. "Oh no," he whispered. Rin finally found his voice. "What is this? What are you doing?" Yuna did not answer immediately. She was breathing slowly, deeply, like someone preparing for something. Her posture shifted. It was a small change, almost impossible to notice. Her shoulders dropped slightly. Her knees bent just a little. Her weight moved to the balls of her feet. To most of the students watching, she looked the same. But to the few combat instructors in the room, the change was obvious. The quiet human girl was gone. Something else had taken her place. Professor Valesis, an insectoid instructor with 4 arms and large compound eyes, rushed toward them. Her mandibles clicked rapidly with alarm. "Stop this immediately," she shouted. "Both of you, stand down." But neither of them moved. Rin's followers had backed away with the rest of the crowd. They had been so confident moments ago, so eager to watch their leader humiliate the Deathworlder. Now they looked at each other with uncertain eyes. Something was wrong. Something was very wrong. One of them, a young Velas's male, pulled up information on his personal device. He searched for human adrenaline response and began to read. His face went pale. "Ren," he called out, his voice shaking. "Ren, you need to stop. You need to stop right now." Ren did not listen. His pride would not let him. He had come too far to back down now. Hundreds of students were watching. If he retreated, his reputation would be destroyed. So he made a choice. He swung at her again. This time, he did not hold back. His claws extended fully, sharp as knives. The strike was aimed at her throat. It was fast, brutal, and designed to kill. But Yuna was faster. She moved like water flowing around a rock. Her body slipped beneath his arm so smoothly that it almost looked like she had simply faded away. Before Rin could understand what had happened, she was beside him. Her hand closed around his wrist. Her other palm struck his elbow. The crack of breaking bone echoed through the silent hall like a gunshot. Rin screamed. It was a sound of pure agony, raw and desperate. He had never made a sound like that in his entire life. His arm bent at an angle that nature had never intended, and he collapsed to his knees, tears streaming from his yellow eyes. Yuna stood over him. She did not strike him again. She did not need to. The hall was so quiet that everyone could hear her breathing. Slow, steady, controlled. "On Earth," she said, her voice carrying through the silence, "we do not have claws. We do not have scales. We do not have venom or armor or wings." She released his wrist and stepped back. "But we survived. For 200,000 years, we survived on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. We hunted predators larger than this room. We crossed oceans with nothing but wood and cloth. We climbed mountains that have no air. We walked on the surface of our moon." She looked around at the crowd of terrified students. "I came here to learn. I came here to build bridges between our people. I came here with an open hand and an open heart. I have been patient. I have been kind." Her eyes returned to Rin, who was still kneeling on the ground, cradling his broken arm. "Do not mistake that for weakness again." Medical drones descended from the ceiling and surrounded Rin. They scanned his injuries and began preparing treatment. But nobody paid attention to them. Every eye in the room was still on Yuna. Duhan finally stepped into the circle. He put a hand on her shoulder, gently, carefully. "You okay?" he asked in Korean. Yuna exhaled slowly. The tension left her body like air leaving a balloon. Her shoulders relaxed. Her expression softened. "I'm okay," she said. "I'm sorry. I tried to avoid it." "I know," Dohn replied. Everyone saw. He attacked first, twice. He looked around at the crowd, at the hundreds of faces staring at them with a mixture of fear, shock, and something that might have been respect. "They all know now," he said quietly. Yuna nodded. She did not know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, but she knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The silent crowd began to part as the medical drones carried Rin away. Students stepped aside, pressing against each other to create the widest possible path. Not for Rin. For Yuna. She walked through the crowd with Dohan at her side. Nobody spoke. Nobody moved to stop her. They simply watched as the small human girl with blood on her lip and fire in her eyes walked out of the grand hall and into history. Behind her, a young Kethrani student who had laughed at her just that morning stood trembling. "What is she?" he whispered. Don, an older student beside him, one who had studied Earth's classification files, answered with a single word: "Human." The footage spread across the academy within hours. Someone had recorded the entire incident in the grand hall. From the moment Rin grabbed Yuna's shoulder to the moment she walked out through the silent crowd, every second was captured. Students shared it with their friends. Friends shared it with their families. By the next morning, it had reached every corner of the Valoran system. Yuna sat in her small room and watched the video play on her personal screen. She watched herself get struck. She watched herself turn back. She watched her own hand break Rin's arm in less than 2 seconds. She did not feel proud. She felt tired. A knock came at her door. She knew who it was before she opened it. Duhan stood outside with 2 cups of tea. Steam rose from them in thin white wisps. He did not say anything. He simply handed her one of the cups and walked past her into the room. "The Academy Council wants to see you tomorrow," he said, sitting down on the edge of her bed. "Rin's family is demanding justice. They want you expelled, maybe even arrested." Yuna sat down at her desk and held the warm cup in her hands. "What do you think will happen?" "I think they'll watch the footage," Dohon replied. "He struck first." He extended his claws. I flagged him as the aggressor. You responded with what any combat instructor would call minimal necessary force. I broke his arm. You could have done much worse, Dohon said quietly. You could have killed him. Everyone knows that now. The fact that you didn't might be the only thing that saves you. Yuna stared at the tea. She could see her reflection in the dark liquid, distorted and small. "I didn't want this," she said. "I just wanted to study. I wanted to show them that humans aren't monsters." Dawn laughed softly. It was not a happy sound. "And now they're more afraid of us than ever." They sat in silence for a long moment. Outside, the three suns of the Valoran system began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple. "Maybe fear isn't always bad," Dawn finally said. "Maybe sometimes people need to fear something before they can respect it." The next day, Una stood before the Academy Council. The chamber was large and circular, with seats rising in tiers around a central platform. Professors, administrators, and representatives from various species filled the seats. In the front row sat Rin's father, a large Kethrani male with scales darker than his son's and eyes that burned with cold rage. Una stood on the central platform. Alone, the head of the council, an ancient being with silver skin and no visible face, spoke first. "Kang Una of Earth, you are here to answer for your actions in the Grand Hall. You are accused of assault against a fellow student. How do you respond?" Una took a breath. "I defended myself. I did not start the fight. I did not want the fight. I asked him to leave me alone. He refused. He struck me. When I did not fall, he attacked again with intent to kill. I stopped him." "You broke his arm," Rin's father growled from his seat. "My son may never use that arm properly again." "Your son tried to cut my throat with his claws," Una replied calmly. "I stopped him with the least force necessary. If I had wanted to hurt him badly, I could have." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The council had raised a hand for silence. "The footage has been reviewed. The Academy AI has provided its analysis. It is clear that Rin initiated the conflict with a physical strike. He then escalated to lethal force. Ms. Kang responded in self-defense." Rin's father stood up. "She's a Deathworlder, a savage from a primitive world. She should never have been allowed here in the first place." "That is not the matter at hand," the council had replied. "The question is whether her actions were justified. Based on the evidence, they were." The chamber erupted in arguments. Some supported Una. Others demanded punishment. The noise grew louder and louder until the council had struck the floor with a staff. Silence fell. "This council rules as follows," the ancient being announced. Kang Una acted in justified self-defense. She will not be punished. Rin of House Catherine is hereby placed on academic probation for initiating violence against a fellow student. Rin's father's face twisted with fury, but he said nothing. He turned and stormed out of the chamber, his heavy footsteps echoing behind him. Una exhaled slowly. It was over, but as she left the chamber, she knew that nothing would go back to the way it was. The other students watched her with different eyes now. Some looked afraid. Some looked curious. Some looked at her with something that almost resembled admiration in the days that followed. Professors began requesting special sessions about Earth. They pulled up historical archives, scientific databases, medical records. They showed their students footage of human endurance events, of soldiers surviving wounds that would kill any other species, of ancient humans hunting massive animals with nothing but sharpened sticks and raw determination. They studied human biology, the way human bones healed stronger after breaking, the way human muscles could push beyond normal limits when flooded with adrenaline, the way human skin could repair itself, human blood could clot, human immune systems could fight off infections that would devastate other species. One professor, a medical specialist from a planet of healers, stood before her class with shaking hands. "They call Earth a death world," she said. "Now I understand why. It's not because the planet is dangerous. It's because the planet created something that is immune to danger. These humans, they are not prey that learn to fight. They are predators that learn to smile. The class sat in stunned silence. Across the academy, a new understanding began to spread. Humans were not weak. They had never been weak. They simply chose to appear weak, to be kind, to be patient. But beneath that soft exterior was something forged in fire and blood over millions of years of evolution. And that, more than anything else, terrified them. But fear, as Doan had said, could become respect. And respect could become friendship. Slowly, cautiously, students began to approach Yuna. They asked questions. They offered to study with her. They sat beside her at meals. She welcomed them all with the same quiet smile she had always worn. "I'm glad you're here," one student told her nervously. "I always wondered what Deathworlders were really like." Yuna looked at him with gentle eyes. "We're just like everyone else," she said. "We just want to live, to learn, to make friends. The only difference is that we came from a place that never gave us anything for free. Everything we have, we earned." The student nodded slowly, understanding beginning to dawn on his face. "But we don't want to fight," Yuna added softly. "We never wanted to fight. We just want to be accepted." She looked out the window at the alien sky. "That's all any of us want." 2 months had passed since the incident in the Grand Hall. The academy had changed. Not in obvious ways, not in ways that visitors would notice at first glance. The buildings were the same. The classes were the same. The 3 suns still rose and set over the purple sky. But something underneath had shifted, like a river changing its course, so slowly that no one could see it move. Yuna walked through the main courtyard with her bag over her shoulder. Students greeted her as she passed. Some waved. Some nodded. A few even smiled. 2 months ago, she had been invisible. Now everyone knew her name. She was not sure if she liked it, but she accepted it. Rin had returned to classes after 3 weeks in medical recovery. His arm had healed, but the medical drone said it would never be as strong as before. He walked with his head down now. His followers had scattered. The students who once feared him now barely looked at him. Yuna saw him sometimes, sitting alone in corners, staring at nothing. She felt no satisfaction in this fall. She had never wanted to hurt him. She had only wanted to be left alone. One afternoon, she found him in the library, sitting at a table in the back where no one would see him. His books were spread out in front of him, but he was not reading. He was just sitting there, his yellow eyes empty. Yuna hesitated. Then she walked over. Rin looked up when he saw her coming. Fear flashed across his face, then shame, then something that might have been anger. But he did not move. He just waited. Yuna sat down across from him. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. "Why are you here?" Rin finally asked. His voice was hoarse, like he had not used it in a long time. "I don't know," Yuna admitted. "Maybe because I understand what it feels like to be alone." Rin laughed bitterly. "You? Alone? Everyone in this academy wants to be your friend now. You're famous. The human who proved that Deathworlders are everything the stories say." "I didn't want that fame," Yuna said quietly. "I didn't want any of this. I just wanted to study and go home." Rin stared at her. He seemed to be searching for something in her face, some sign of mockery or cruelty. But there was nothing there. Just a tired young woman who had been through more than she had expected. "I don't understand you," he said. "I hit you. I tried to kill you. And you're sitting here talking to me like nothing happened." "Something happened," Yuna replied. "But holding on to anger doesn't help anyone. It just makes you heavy." She paused. "On Earth, we have a saying. Holding a grudge is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die." Rin looked down at his hands. The hand that had struck her. The arm that she had broken. "I've never met anyone like you," he said quietly. "My whole life, I've been taught that strength means domination. That power means making others afraid. But you're stronger than me, and you don't need anyone to fear you. Fear is easy, Yuna said. Respect is harder. Friendship is hardest of all. She stood up and gathered her things. I'm not asking you to be my friend, she said. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that I don't hate you. And if you ever want to start over, my door is open. She walked away without looking back. Rin sat alone in the library for a long time after she left. Something had broken inside him when she broke his arm, but something else was beginning to grow in its place. He did not have a name for it yet, but it felt like the first step toward becoming someone better. 3 weeks later, a message arrived at the Academy from Earth's Interstellar Relations Council. It was addressed to the Academy leadership, but copies were sent to all human students. Human integration at Valoran Academy proceeding ahead of schedule. Cultural exchange proving more successful than initial projections indicated. Recommend expanding program to include additional human students in the next academic cycle. They are ready to see what we really are. Yuna read the message in her room, sitting by the window as the sun set outside. Dahun sat across from her, a cup of tea in his hands. Looks like you made an impression, he said with a small smile. We made an impression, Yuna corrected. You've been here longer than me. You laid the groundwork. I kept my head down and tried not to get noticed, Dohum replied. You showed them the truth. I showed them one truth, Yuna said. There are many others. She thought about the students who now sat with her at meals. The study groups that had invited her to join. The young Kethrani who had approached her just yesterday, nervously asking if she could teach him some human self-defense techniques. They're not afraid of us anymore, she said. Not in the old way. Now, they're curious. They want to understand. That's good, isn't it? Yuna nodded slowly. It's a start. She looked out at the alien sky, at the stars beginning to appear as the suns faded. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home, her family, the mountains and cities and oceans that had shaped her species into what they were. We spent so long trying to prove we belonged here, she said softly, trying to show that we were civilized, that we were peaceful, that we could be trusted. But maybe that was the wrong approach. What do you mean? Yuna turned to face Dohun. Her eyes were calm, but there was a fire behind them that had not been there before. Maybe we don't need to hide what we are. Maybe we just need to show them all of it. The strength and the kindness. The fire and the patience. The warrior and the friend. She smiled. We're human. We're complicated. And that's okay. Dawn raised his cup of tea. To being complicated. Yuna raised hers. To building bridges. Their cups touched with a soft clink. Outside, the stars continued to shine. Countless points of light in an infinite darkness. And somewhere among them, a small blue planet full of complicated, resilient, impossible creatures continued to spin, sending its children out into the universe one by one. They would not be invisible. They would not be silent. They would be exactly what they had always been. Human. And that was enough.